controlled by the FDA. Aren't medications controlled and drugged for medical purpose, controlled by the FDA? Who controls the purity and so forth of the medical cannabis in the state? Anybody know? Is it controlled? Is it regulated? I mean, you know, we wouldn't go to a drugstore if we didn't have some kind of a certification from FDA that whatever that medication is, that it has been inspected, approved, and so forth. So I asked that question. So my particular position, and it's the Navy and from the military side, because I can give you the national security perspective on this. We have zero tolerance to substance abuse. We have to, okay? Because of what we deal with. We're in the defense business. We're in the protection and defense of this country. So we can't afford to be involved with drugs, and that's just the way it is. The real issue is a national security issue, because what's an easy way to take down a country? It's to get them involved in drugs, and so that you could render a citizenship that's absolutely useless. And it's easier to take down a country by getting them addicted than shooting them or bombing them or any other way, or just shooting them. So I would ask that you consider this from a national perspective. And since we're in the health building here for the Massachusetts, and excuse me if I'm out of line, but maybe what your middle initial is C, control. It's not E, enable, but that's what I've heard here. Most of the speakers are into the enabling, and we've heard, you know, the industry folks, and that's great, but you got to look at the societal cost of this country, and that's what I'd ask you to consider. So, anyway, thank you very much.
Next speaker is Michael Kahn. Captain Michael.
Can everybody hear me?
So I think a little closer.
How's this?
Better, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Kahn. I'm president and founder of MCR Labs. And I'm here today speaking on behalf of MCR Labs. We're a licensed and accredited testing lab, locally owned and operating in Massachusetts since 2013. So as an independent testing laboratory, our mission is to reduce contaminants in cannabis products. We accomplish this mission by providing dependable, technically sound, quality control data, which is critical for well-informed decisions regarding recommending, consuming, regulating, and researching cannabis products. The purpose of a quality control system is to mitigate risk, right? So our primary goal is for the Commission to use this feedback that I'm providing today to optimize the drafted regulations to reduce the risk of the program by reducing the contaminants found in cannabis. So there are several topics that we submit for your attention in order to find the most effective means for you to control the quality of your quality control. So overall, we recommend additional studies involving scientific and public health and policy experts to update the optimal testing protocols with the goal of establishing action limits and analytes based on current data regarding consumption and tolerance levels and current testing technology. The current regulations were written about 5 years ago. Technology has been found. Specifically, I asked the Commission to update the pesticide regulations to clarify approved microbiological contaminant quantitation assays and to reassess the true risk of mycotoxins. While they may be very toxic, we have not seen them found in cannabis. Every additional test that is required increases the cost of cannabis in the regulated market and drives the population to the unregulated and untested market, which is the opposite of the goal. The areas of study should include analyte lists, action limits, and chemical and microbiological homogeneity. So the following is actually speaking against our MCR Lab's financial self-interest. We request clarity regarding the current 10-pound batch limit, which requires that every 10 pounds of cannabis is tested for all contaminants. Undoubtedly, this new regulation increases overall cost arbitrarily, which turns the public to unregulated and untested market, overall increasing contaminants that the public ultimately consumes. We also request that you include other regulatory and scientific agencies in your deliberations, such as the World Health Organization, the DPH, the ILAC, AMDAR, USP, and many others. The second topic that I want to cover is that the draft regulations propose requiring that a failed batch be retested at a second laboratory. Respectfully, this regulation as drafted unintentionally undermines the intended goal of the Commission.
Would you submit your comments in writing? Have you done so?
Excuse me?
Would you submit your comments in writing, or have you done so?
I will.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Next speaker is Brian Yin.
Sam Milton.
Excuse me, Sam Milton. Did I get that right?
Milton, yes, that's right.
Oh, Milton.
Milton.
That sure looked like an S. Okay. My apologies.
My penmanship is not stellar, I apologize.
Anyway, good afternoon.
Thank you, good afternoon. I'm grateful for the opportunity to address you this afternoon. I know you're on a marathon with your work, so this is a hard work, so I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Sam Milton. I operate a consulting firm called Climate Resources Group. And I'm here today working with an organization called Resource Innovation Institute, which is a national organization that works to address best practice for energy and environmental efficient cultivation. So that's what that goal in mind here today. We've been tracking the regulations, obviously. You guys have done a great job. Just so you know, Massachusetts is really identified as a leader across the country for its work in this. So you should be very proud of the work that you've done to date. It really is no joke. So a couple of things, so the work still goes on, of course. One thing we've identified is that the Commission has not yet made a form to for cultivators to report their energy use. And we would suggest that the Commission find a consistent template to do this. It would help growers as they submit their information. It would probably help the Commission in terms of doing compliance checking. And it would also give the Commission some access to uniform data as it goes through its research process. I would respectfully submit that the Commission adopt the Cannabis Power Support tool, which is a tool that the Research Innovation Institute has developed. So it's basically ready to go, and it requires just a few small tweaks to really serve the purpose for the state. On the issue of energy efficiency and equipment standards, we support the addition of the photon synthetic efficacy rule as a compliance mechanism. We are worried, though, that some lights may not be listed on the Science Consortium qualified products list that a grower may want to use that actually is efficacious. So we would propose that there be a mechanism for a grower to get a variance for a bike that is not on that list, as long as it meets the same standards. On the exemptions to efficiency rules, we generally support that growers can use renewable or alternative energy sources to generate 80% or more of their power to be exempted from the rules. I'll be careful about that, especially as it relates to combined heat and power, because it does use natural gas, which has a methane impact. So I would propose that cultivators that want to use CHP to meet that 80% threshold demonstrate that their overall energy and their carbon footprint is lower than would be an alternative using grid power. And on that note, there was reference to renewable energy credits, alternative energy credits as well. I just want to ask the CCC to clarify how they expect growers to use those credits. Can they purchase them on the, on the market, or can't they? The rules are not totally clear on that point. And finally, I just want to kind of reiterate that we think having the CCC take on their research agenda around energy use baseline is very important. So growers can understand, what they need to do, and so the state can understand and also then the landscape around energy use profiles for growers. And with that, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Roxanne.
I'll be submitting my comments in writing.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Next speaker is Michael Gruber. Martine Hamburg. Next speaker is Sydney Griffith. Good afternoon.
Hello, thank you guys so much for all the work you do. And I'm Sydney Griffith. I'm an activist and an educator in the cannabis community. So over the past year, my friends and I have shared our private residential homes for over 80 social consumption-friendly events in Boston, hiring local talent, educators, holistic professionals, yoga instructors, meditation, DJs, comedians, painters, for these private experiences for my friends. What we're not talking about enough when we discuss social consumption is that consuming cannabis socially and responsibly has been happening forever. It's happening prevalently right now, and it'll continue to happen despite your laws. What legalization is doing is locking up less people of color. So now what we need to do is go a step further and talk about empowering people of color, decreasing the barriers to entry in this industry by making it possible for this group of people and other locals passionate about cannabis to hold space for and organize social consumption events, as the cost to do so legally will be far less, obviously, than that of launching cultivation, manufacturing, or retail. So what my friends and I have done over the past year is simply open up our hearts, our homes, invited our friends inside, asked professionals to come, and welcomed our friends to consume their own cannabis, and offered some basic organization to support this culture. And the results? The unfolding and growth of a multicultural, multi-age, multi-everything local community who gathers privately and peacefully to connect, heal, create, and self-express, and explore and gain education around the different ways to enhance their quality of life through cannabis, whether CBD, THC, ingesting, topical use, etc. To note on social equity, many of the creatives, educators, and holistic professionals who we feature are people of color, those who have been disproportionately targeted by the drug war, and those who support positive cannabis culture and therefore appreciate our holding space for them to simply do what they love doing and before an audience of positive, social, responsible users. In response to what the cops mentioned earlier this morning, all of us know that patients who use cannabis regularly will at any point have far more THC in their system than novice users who could be far more impaired as a result. Although delays around rolling out social consumption are beneficial to locals like me trying to take part in this sector, then build a community and support and prepare ourselves for competition with larger big money players, we all know that we can and should be able to legally consume this recreational herb in commercial settings before we determine how to measure impairment, and accept that many individuals with chronic pain or other ailments who use cannabis as medicine can drive functionally, whereas novice users with less THC in their system should not be driving and will likely look that way when they're pulled over. If we're going to compare alcohol to cannabis, one scenario where it makes sense to do this, just like people can make a choice to not drink and drive, people can make a choice to not smoke and drive. We need to start talking about cannabis for what it is, a product widely used, a medicine, a healer, a creative stimulant, a connector, a social agent, and more. And the events I've been hosting for the past year demonstrate just that. We know why we're here today, the dissemination of information and access of information. The government can't burn library books anymore to conceal information from the people. People can share testimonies of this plant's power, and the testimonies are powerful and abundant, regardless of what the FDA says, and we know that the FDA is correct. Someone earlier mentioned a fund. I agree that it is imperative to have a fund for the purposes of fueling the launch and support of local community-driven, social impact-oriented businesses that are connected to or in this industry. Someone also mentioned cannabis being addictive earlier. I'd like to know who paid the woman who spoke this way. Yes, a behavior could be addictive. Yes, cannabis may not be the best substance for someone with predispositions to mental illness, but cannabis is not physiologically addictive. Opiates are, and were initially falsely advertised as not physiologically addictive to drive more sales. Also, teen use has gone down in Colorado, which is pioneering the normalization of cannabis. And delivery, I wanted to know how important it is to open the gates to delivery. Clearly no one wants to be filmed when getting their medicine. People are scared by the stigma still, and delivery is an opportunity to decrease the barriers to entry and create jobs, allow for circumnavigating the need to start a retail operation. Body cams is completely ridiculous, and that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. Next speaker is Suzanne Wong. Pass. Next speaker is Dottie Foganiti. Next speaker is Anthony Buzensi. Next speaker, if I can read this, is Victor Jury. Did I get that right? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to bring a couple of items of concern. My name is Victor Jury. I'm the CEO of Stock and Beans. We have a platform that helps cannabis retailers with online menus, their website, and compliance. And we're also an applicant for a third-party transporter. So some of the concerns that we have on the delivery side of things, very redundant with what a lot of other people have said. The body cameras are a big concern. I think that the invasion of privacy is a huge concern. I certainly would not allow somebody into my house with a recording device. Would you guys? So just something for your consideration. Right. I understand the safety implications and how safety is very important, but I think there's other ways to ensure safety other than invading the privacy, and it will undermine the program in general. I would not order delivery if somebody has to come into my house and record everything that's going on in my house. I would find other means. Another aspect for home delivery is the fact that the current regulations or the proposed regulations are stipulating that the delivery folks have to work with existing retailers, which are typically the large enterprises that are vertically integrated and so on. So I'm proposing that you guys really think about allowing the delivery only licenses to purchase wholesale. So I think that some of the micro businesses also have interest in being able to do deliveries themselves, and so I think those two things kind of come together, if you will. And that is pretty much it. Just wanted to be short and kind of reiterate what other people have said. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Next speaker is Jeff Barton. Next speaker is Goldie Piff. Next speaker is Chauncey Spencer.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to make several points. I'll start with one main recommendation, and that's for indefinite exclusivity for economic empowerment applicants for home delivery and social consumption licenses, particularly in cities that have large populations that have been subjected to racist drug policies, which include, but nowhere limited to, overzealous, oppressive policing, continuance until forced plea bargains, humanization, loss of housing, the stigmatization of consumers and communities with decades of propaganda. These places are often called areas of disproportionate impact. Although the people like myself who have been subjected to this state-sanctioned abuse are often told that they are welcome in this industry, but the reality is that we are facing indifference in municipalities and constant attempts at being taken advantage by industry operators and predators. And that's what I think will happen with these licenses also, if we're not deliberate in our approach. For economic empowerment applicants forced to purchase cannabis products downstream, maybe from a dispensary as opposed to a manufacturer, it looks like a poor tax or a tribute to those operators who have stolen the opportunities from our dispensaries and open up our dispensaries in our own communities. But that's what's happening on the ground now, along with rich white men turning economic empowerment applicants into tokens by buying some of our politicians in the process, or while buying some of our politicians in the process. The end result is that there will be no more than independent contractors in this type of setup. Now, having us strap on cameras feels like an attempt to dissuade customers who already have insecurities with purchasing cannabis in public because of decades of stigma and terrorism. So the last thing they want is a camera pointed in their face, especially in this day and age. How are we supposed to welcome the underground consumer into our marketplace with the threat of losing their privacy? How are we supposed to recruit underground operators if we violate their privacy and impose burdensome regulations that don't exist for other industries, except for maybe hazardous drivers or drivers of hazardous materials? Meanwhile, the underground market will persist. Interestingly enough, those underground operators laugh at people like myself because had I gone into the unregulated, untaxed marketplace, I'd likely have been made $1 million by now. But I see this future, or I see the future where a regulated industry has made inroads. And in that future, the opportunity to build a company that truly welcomes them won't exist anymore if people like myself don't build it now. But we aren't being allowed to build it. A 2-year exclusivity period is not enough. I know because it's been 15 months since I've signed my building's lease, and we was the first company to complete an application for an establishment here in Boston. And I've been waiting for an HDA since. The damage that the regulatory bait and switch game has done to me is bad. Since I've lost 30 pounds. My social and family life is unrecognizable. I've had to sign up for government benefits because I have no income and I'm raising 3 children on my own. This plant shouldn't do this. I've never known a person to hemorrhage money while trying to sell cannabis. So the status quo is not working. So I say this to this body: you need to be intentional in exercising this mandate to ensure inclusion. That requires you to be courageous and push back against the racism and oppression that built this perverse inequity in this state. Legal cannabis in this industry will not be built on the backs and bodies of people with broken dreams that have suffered during Prohibition, and those who have been prosecuted, and those who have been regulated out of existence. So although they are not here today, people are watching what comes out of the other end of these regulations, and you will be judged accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Chauncey.
I'm gonna punt on this one. Vanessa something Baptiste. I apologize. So what is the middle one?
Jean Baptiste. That's my last name. Oh,
Staring into the line,
okay.
that's why.
Sorry about that. Anyway, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Vanessa G. Baptiste. I am an economic empowerment. I want to give a little brief overview of what's been going on through my process. I tried to get a host agreement in Brockton. Throughout the process, I was railroaded, I was given misinformation, and then the mayor signed all the host agreements to his campaign, people who donate to his campaign or political figures in the city. Then the mayor died. So now the new mayor was able to open a process for economic empowerment strictly. I say this because I had to put out my face to get this process going. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to get to where I am right now. As far as how the social consumption and delivery is operated, I feel like the retail, any establishment should be able to have a pre-qualifications and then be able to come to the city to be able to say that I was pre-qualified by the state, so I could be able to operate in this town or city, because other than that, we don't have a voice. And then another issue is the butter zones, the abutter zones. I feel as though after my whole process for Brockton, I went to Boston to see if I could get a retail. I found a location. I got an owner to allow me to use his property without pay to go through the process because he understood what was going on as an economic empowerment. However, throughout this process, I realized that there was a school that is K through 12 that only has 50 kids in that school. And that was really disappointing to me because now I have to find a new location, and another owner is allowing me to use his location, but I have to pay $12,000 a month, which is crazy. I would like to at least do a butter zone, because even when it comes to retail or social consumption, you're still going to be in that buffer zone, and that buffer zone is going to be really hard for economic empowerment to pay and go through the city, meeting with people and going through the state. I feel as though at least having economic empowerment to be allowed in the buffer zones through schools would be beneficial, because there's liquor stores that are right next to schools. They have posters that have alcohol, they have naked women with alcohol, and little kids have to walk by that. So retail stores, you're supposed to have like shades or something to, when you walk by, people don't see what's going on. So I'd like to just make those two statements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Ellis. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Hoffman, and good afternoon to the Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to voice my perspective today. My name is Ellis, and I'm a disabled medical cannabis patient. I've told you my story before, but I was a graduate student studying political philosophy at Boston College before I fell seriously disabled following complications from a surgery. My use of medical cannabis has supplemented my pharmanarcotic regimen, and to the point where I now only use one pharmanarcotic medication for my trigeminal neuralgia. When I first felt disabled, I used 8. It's changed my life and allowed me to function. That said, I am disabled, and before I get into my comments on your draft regulations, I just want to bring up that accessibility at your hearings can be a little difficult for those of us with limited mobility. I had to stand for an hour and a half today before I was able to get a seat. I arrived at 10 a.m. There are some other accessibility issues as well, and I'm grateful to the Commission that you'll be taking those into consideration as you prepare for your move to Worcester. I also want to take a moment to correct the record. There were only 2 people who spoke today talking about youth access to cannabis, and they made some statements that I found to be abhorrent and offensive. In July of 2019, a study was published in JAMA Pediatrics called Association of Marijuana Laws with Teen Marijuana Use, New Estimates from the Youth Risk Behavior Surveys. And it found that in states with legal cannabis like Massachusetts, both recreational and medical, the prevalence rates of youth consumption go down 10% on average across those states. Increased access to legal cannabis reduces youth consumption. It does not proliferate youth consumption. The other issue that I want to bring up today is your proposed regulations regarding delivery. The current delivery regulations for recreational cannabis, with respect to Commissioner McBride and others who I know work very hard on the issue, is not up to snuff. The proposal would facilitate a regulatory monopoly for dispensaries by forcing delivery companies to serve as glorified couriers, selling products at retail price from existing dispensaries to consumers. These delivery companies must be allowed to operate as standalone delivery services wherein they can purchase a warehouse, purchase product at wholesale from cultivators and manufacturers, and deliver it to patients. That is the kind of competition in the market that's going to help reduce the burden that exists on patients and recreational consumers right now by way of the artificial increase in price that occurs when a regulatory monopoly exists for a small group of retail dispensary owners. In Massachusetts, the current average price for an ounce of top shelf marijuana is above the national average. The national average is $326 an ounce for high quality marijuana. In Massachusetts, it costs $340 an ounce. That would be 50% of my Social Security disability stipend for 1 month to purchase 1 ounce of marijuana, plus the delivery fee. The only way you can make those prices go down is to increase competition in the market, and the only way you can do that is by not forcing delivery companies to use middlemen in the form of retail marijuana dispensaries. So please take up the advisory board's suggestion for a true form of standalone delivery. They voted unanimously with one abstention to endorse that format for delivery. Please bring it about. The current proposal will only facilitate profits for dispensaries, and it is not good enough. Likewise, one more issue is the hardship grows. You took away the $50 fee for medical patients per year, which is great, but now you want to impose a $100 fee on people who have financial and medical hardships. Please take away that fee. Please do not mandate inspections for hardship grows. And please allow patients to have access to cannabis while they're learning how to grow. Do not ban them from going to dispensaries. So thank you very much, and I'm grateful to the Commission for taking the time to hear my comments today, and I am grateful for your dedication to the industry, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Grant. Next speaker is Mark Sheppard.
Hello, my name is Mark Sheppard. I've been a bicycle courier this year for going on 18 years. I was first licensed by the City of Austin to do deliveries via bicycle back in 2002. Been licensed many years by the city. We deliver all sorts of things: food, drugs, picking up people's prescriptions, blood samples, medical samples, lab work. We're in and out of labs all the time. We're out here. We've been out here, I don't know, since the 80s. I tried to figure out how much CO2 would be emitted by a car driving the city making weed deliveries. And the best numbers I could come up with was the EPA said the average car gets 22 miles a gallon. And 1 gallon of gasoline puts out about just under 20 pounds of CO2 gas, which if you take 1 pound of CO2 gas, it's about a 30-inch sphere in diameter. So for you to see 1 pound of CO2, it'd be about this much. And that's for every mile that one of these delivery cars would drive. In a city, the added congestion from vehicles is an undue stress. There's just not enough room in the city for all these cars. Bicycles, please allow a reasonable amount that a human can carry on their person. It could be somewhere between the 2 ounces that every citizen can already carry up to maybe a pound, which would be 16 ounces. That's enough for a delivery bicyclist to make 16 deliveries, which is a full day's work right there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Mark. Next speaker is Nick O'Hara. Next speaker, Becca Rosenberg. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to address you this afternoon. My name is Becca Rutenberg. I'm here on behalf of Vicente Cedarberg LLP, which is a national cannabis law firm. We work with folks in 21 different states. And first of all, I certainly recognize you're on hour 4, so I'll keep my comments brief to know that I'm very appreciative that you've taken the time to hear everyone out. So this afternoon, I'm specifically seeking to talk about the medical use of marijuana programs and proposed regulations as they stand. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that it's a personal issue for me personally, and one of the reasons that I got involved at our firm. My mother utilized medical cannabis when she was terminally ill, and not only did it increase her quality of life immensely, but it certainly helped the time that we had together be more valuable, I would say. And we've had numerous speakers today discuss kind of lack of accessibility to product in the medical market. And it was interesting to me that the Commission's draft regulations currently maintain that medical use of marijuana program applicants should still be vertically integrated. It is an incredibly cost-intensive, labor-intensive, and knowledge-intensive, requiring an applicant to have an understanding of every kind of aspect of the supply chain. In an adult use market where applicants can reap substantial financial benefits, from the adult use market, we have clients that question, with such cost, with such, labor-intensive and knowledge-intensive requirements, why would I get involved in the medical market? Historically, there's also been vast differences in the prices that applicants have to pay for renewals or application fees. We'd encourage the Commission to maintain kind of either level fee structures for these applicants and licensees, or even suggest taking a look at lower fee structures for medical use of marijuana program, medical marijuana treatment centers. Additionally, many of the Commission's proposed changes seem to perhaps violate Chapter 369 of the Act of 2012, Chapter 94I, Section 7, which says it would be not more, I would say, restrictive than any rule promulgated by DPH, specifically taking a look there at tier and canopy requirements and fine assessments. Not wanting to bore you with some specific statute references, our firm will be providing written comment and some red lines for your reading enjoyment, but certainly do appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Becca. Next speaker is Casey Gruber. Good afternoon.
Thank you again for the opportunity to address the Commission this afternoon. My name is Casey Lieber, and I serve as the Compliance Manager for Vicente Cedarberg LLP. As Becca mentioned, we're a national cannabis law firm that, among other services, assists marijuana businesses in maintaining compliance with all state and local regulations. So our clients expend significant time and resources in their efforts to interpret operational aspects of regulations that are unclear, to anticipate potential areas of enforcement that are not codified in regulations, or to comply with regulations without significant benefits to public safety that drive up costs for licensees. We respectfully request that the Commission take this opportunity to simplify the regulations and remove ambiguity, send a clear message to staff as to how they should interpret the regulations when interacting with licensees, and eliminate regulations that burden licensees without equivalent benefits to public welfare. We're going to be, as Becca mentioned, submitting specific regulatory suggestions via red line edits, but some of the examples include current interpretations that cameras within marijuana establishments must clearly capture the hands of all employees handling marijuana, although the regulations state that cameras must be directed at where marijuana is handled. Cameras in the facility are not the only anti-diversion measures in place, and this interpretation has resulted in anywhere between 5 and 25 additional cameras being added to a facility as a result of an inspection, which is, of course, a substantial cost to licensees. Licensees have been required to install secure delivery areas with fences at the request of inspection staff without specific statute or regulation that requires such a fence. One important recommendation that we would like to make is eliminating the requirement that the Commission give prior approval of architectural plans before licensees may commence construction or renovation to facilities. Licensees should be able to build out at their own risk, knowing that the commission may, during architectural review, not approve some of their plans. They may need to take down walls or move particular things. This would allow, as we've heard a lot of the applicants today say, there are delays in licensing and they're sitting on leases that are, $12,000 a month. This may allow them to begin the renovation, begin build out, and get operational much faster. Removing this requirement does not prejudice the commission in any way, nor does it create a threat to public safety. One of the other comments that's already been mentioned a few times is, prohibiting marijuana establishments from developing accessories and apparel that feature the establishment's business name and logo. Requiring agents to register for each license type that a license holds, including medical, instead of allowing them to just register under the organization's name. And although it's not a regulatory requirement, the seemingly metric imposed 10-pound package limits for testing create higher operational costs. So I ask that as the commission considers modifications to the current regulations, we urge you to proactively remove ambiguities in order to make the regulations clearer and easy to comply with. To use new regulations to provide helpful guidelines to staff that empower them to make suggestions based on law, not situational happenstance, and to eliminate regulations that burden licensees without equivalent benefits to public welfare. Increased operating costs and fines are a barrier to entry for prospective licensees, and such costs are passed along to the consumer, inhibiting the industry's ability to grow efficiently.
Thank you, Casey. The next speaker is Sohan Shen. Do I have that right?
Just listening today. Hey.
Okay. Did I have that just for my edification? Did I get that right?
So on.
So on. Next speaker is Joseph Gilmore. Now, Joe, I want to make sure that you speak into the microphone so that you can hear yourself clearly.
Hi, my name is Joe Gilman. I'm the president of the Massachusetts Recreational Consumer Council. We're a 501c4 consumer nonprofit representing the interests of adult cannabis consumers across the state. My comments are in regards to regulations pertaining to cannabis delivery licenses consistent with the recommendations proposed by the Cannabis Advisory Board. Cannabis consumers have always been targeted and monitored for decades, but to require monetization of legal cannabis deliveries is an invasion of consumer privacy and propels the false notion that marijuana attracts criminal activity. There is no substantial evidence that indicates legal marijuana sales lead to increased crime. Reports from legal states like California and Colorado actually show the opposite, and we ask the Commission for the right to be treated with the same integrity as any other type of consumer. As a technical assistance provider working with social equity applicants, I see these proposed body camera requirements as an extraneous and costly burden for social equity applicants who have been promised this license type as an economic opportunity for small entrepreneurs. These costs ultimately will fall on the consumer. There's no reason for these licenses to be so capital intensive when such stringent regulations have never been required for existing delivery operations such as Drizzly, alcohol delivery, pharmaceutical delivery, or even Amazon. Whether you accept it or not, underground cannabis delivery has for decades and will continue to be a primary and secondary source of revenue for individuals from communities like Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan, which coincidentally also have the highest rates disparities for arrests, and will continue unless the Commission takes action to address recidivism through these regulations. It's no secret that cannabis delivery is frequently a young person's first shot at entrepreneurship and owning their own business in my community. For individuals who have been incarcerated and can't access a legal job, cannabis has always been a high commodity in high demand. Instead of focusing our efforts on cracking down on the same individuals criminalized for the past century, the Commission should focus on lowering barriers to entry to ensure this license type is a viable pathway for economic and restorative justice. For this reason, I recommend the Commission to remove the body camera requirement and live beach storage requirements. In addition, delivery-only licenses should have the ability to acquire products directly from manufacturers and cultivation facilities. Current legislation relegates this license type as an errand boy or courier service, not a delivery-only retail license. Delivery-only retailers should have the freedom to operate independently, and so that they can reach optimal profit margins. And I thank you for your time. Thank you, Chair.
Next speaker is Billy Berthold. Is Antoine E. or Arthur E. from pardon?
Autumn?
Autumn.
Good.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No.
Now you said that, I got it. I apologize. Good afternoon, how are you?
Where do we begin, right?
At the beginning, and as long as you finish in 4 minutes,
Okay.
you can take any path you
Alright,
want.
here we go. So my name is Autumn Estrada. I own Goddess of Green down in New Bedford. We are privately owned, members only, small batch social equity applicants. I came to you not as my profession as being in the Western medical field, also holistic health for the past 13 years, as well as a domestic violence shotgun survivor, where I wouldn't really call it my celebration in 2 days that I will come upon, but a surviving adversity, I guess, and I want to thank cannabis for that. So as a visual prop, I have been able to get myself off of opioids with cannabis. So I kind of brought a prop, which I get emotional, sorry. But pharmaceutical has left me with this. I've been able to get off of all of this, which would be about a month and a half supply, not including narcotics, to be able to handle my legs and my pain, neuropathy, the shrapnel, the rods, the pins that are in there. So now, in my position, I feel that if I'm not advocating for the disproportionate impacted people, which I hate to even call it that, and the capable people, the disabled people, if I'm not here to advocate for them, then they don't have a voice. So I understand your jobs are very difficult, and I commend you for doing what you guys are doing, but this is our daily life. So a plant over chemicals, I'm gonna go for a plant. That's it. Thank you.
Best of luck, Autumn. Thank you. Next speaker is Michelle Ferguson. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my testimony. I know that your job is not easy, and I appreciate your years of service to the community. I'm a Boston resident, born and raised. I have 2 requests today. Well, before I get going, I represent a whole class of people who could not take off work to be at this hearing today. So I just want to mention them so that they know we're still here rooting for them. I have 2 requests. My first request is that you ease the location aspect for people who are under a certain income. Approval pending location not only cripples them, but requires them to pay a lot of money before their applications are approved. It's sort of a biased technique because it sends a message that if you do not have a lot of money, don't even waste your time applying. So in either case scenario, either the owner is going to get hit with the cost or the small business is going to get hit with the cost. So I'm just asking if you could somehow find a way to ease that. Maybe they can get the approval pending finding a location. Maybe they have 6 months to find a location. My second request is that you reopen the economical application door. 2 weeks is completely unacceptable. We are leaving this industry to the highest bidders, and they have proven time after time that they care about what makes profit and money, not what is best for the community. I watch as corporations hike fares on students as they're trying to get home from school and avoid bullying and avoid harassment. I watch as some corporations force the resale of technology with no regard to if teachers or elderly can afford it or not. Time after time, some corporations have chosen that they would like to do what makes money, not what makes community. The way the system has been structured caters to corporations and disadvantages the little guy, regardless of that little guy's race. He is not being given a fair chance at the table, especially when it comes to delivery methods that require body cams and additional expenditures. And these are the very people who deserve a chance, the ones who have a proven track record of being in the community. So I just want to say it's up to us to do what's right, even when it hurts. This is Massachusetts. We have the obligation of setting a good example because we are number one, and we can support processes that are equal to everyone. I want to make it clear, I don't want it too close to the kids, but I do want the little guys to have a seat at the table. We have to do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Next speaker is Mark Bouquet. Yeah, he's out. If you don't mind. Thank you.
How's it going? Thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify today. Again, your jobs are not easy, but everybody has a job to do. And issues with the body cam, it's just not going to work. Doesn't make sense. I know you guys heard it all day today already, but it's an issue. We just want to make it known. Body cams are not going to work. Delivery service, it should be what it says, a delivery service or a delivery company where you get to basically make deliveries on your own company, not getting it from a retail company. It just doesn't make sense. You're not a delivery company if you're getting it from a retailer. You need to be getting it from a craft organization or a cultivator, somewhere of that sort, so you could make some type of profit. Getting it from a retailer is just not going to work. So they could win. 122 licenses, nobody's open. It just doesn't make sense. Something's not working. And I think the host agreement issue should just be looked at. But again, like Vanessa said, giving somebody the opportunity to check with the state first and then going to the city and saying, hey, look, state approved me, let me go through the process. Another issue we've had is that, again, we don't want it to be next to schools, completely understand that. My big issue is 500 feet. When you put it into Google and you're walking, there's places that are over 500 feet. Bird's eye view, I get it, that's how you guys do it, but really doesn't make sense. Kids K through 12 are not gonna jump from location to location, bird's eye view to get to a location. It just, Google works where it's less than 500 feet and bird's eye view just doesn't. And if you guys just looked at that issue right there, I'm pretty sure more economic empowerment people would be able to move forward with the process and finding a location. Just that issue right there, bird's eye view. There's a lot of locations out there that doesn't work bird's eye view, but it works when you put it into Google. That's it.
Okay. Thanks very much. That's the end of the list of people that have signed up. There are a number of people that I called on who either had left or stepped out for a moment. So first of all, I'm going to give an opportunity to anybody that signed up that has not yet spoken. Okay, we'll do you and then you. Please come up. Just remind me, tell me your name, please.
My name is Jesse Daniels.
Jesse Daniels?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And you did sign up?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll find you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. What I'm going to say is pretty much the same thing everybody else has said, so I'm not going to drag on with it. But the body cams are not going to work. People are just going to stay in the gray black market. And it's going to stay the way it is now. Sorry, I have a brain freeze here. That's really all I wanted to say there. It was just about the black market. It's going to keep going, and also the prices. of fees, and people like me, we're not gonna be able to have a chance to get in and get through and make it happen. Big money's gonna come in and take that over and take that from us. I'm a Massachusetts resident. I've lived here my whole life, and people like me should have a chance. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Good afternoon. My name is Vernon Jackson. I'd like to thank you guys for letting me come up and speak today. I'm an economic empowerment certificate holder. I am enrolled in the social equity program. I have an interest in getting into the delivery as an entry point to get to retail and hopefully cultivation. The only problem with that is that the way it's set up right now doesn't currently provide me that opportunity. I've been going through a few issues trying to get a license in this industry. I have a gang of friends that also have economic empowerment certificates, social equity applicants, and we've all been coming into the same roadblock. We all understand that funding is a problem, and we don't have a problem with working for it. You know, given the opportunity to go out into the world and make the money ourselves, to be able to parlay that into another business, you know, that's America. You know, being able to pull myself up from my bootstraps is, you know, that's everyday work. So all I can say is just provide us with the opportunity to be able to do that. And that's it. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much, Vernon.
Have a good one.
We do have a little bit of time. Anybody else wishes to speak, even if you haven't signed up? Okay, then we are adjourned. I wanted to thank everybody who attended. I want to thank everybody for their thoughtful comments. And just if you want to submit written comments,